One question I get asked pretty regularly is how I tie my own jigs. It's really quite simple. The basic equipment you need is a fly tying vise. Costs around $15–20. A couple of bobbins to hold your thread, a few spools of different colors thread, a couple of little packages of yarn of various colors, some tail material, feathers, could be marabou, whatever you prefer for a tail, and a small pair of scissors. Another thing that's helpful is it's called a needle threader, but it's used to slide down that tube and attach your line and pull it through there to thread your thread on. And that's very helpful because it saves you a lot of time and effort trying to get that thread through that little hole. Attach your vise to your workbench. Secure your hook with the hook side down. And the first step, of course, is to attach your thread to your body, to the body of the bait. And just simply lay it on there and wrap it around a dozen or so turns and let it go. That's secure enough. Next step, of course, would be to add your tail material. I'm going to use a little bit of marabou on this, and I'll trim the end of it to get it to the proper length. Just lay it on the shank of the hook and wrap it around several times. And I'll usually wrap it around back to about the point of the hook. That's about as far back as I'll go, then I'll return it back right behind the head. And once again, just release it. When working with marabou, feathers are not so difficult to use. Marabou is kind of poofy. When I'm using feathers like this, they'll lay down pretty good. When I'm using marabou, just a little trick, just wet your finger and wet that marabou. That way it doesn't get all fluffy and get in your way. Second step will be to break off a little piece of your yarn. It's not very tough, so it's real easy to break with your hand. Lay it right on top of the shank of the hook, right up behind the head, and wrap it around there 8–10 times, maybe a dozen. Once again, there's no knots required. Just let your weight of your bobbin hold it in place. Then just wrap it in place, just around and around, all the way back to about the bend of the hook. Hold it pretty tight. Then when you get to that point, just come back over the top and go all the way back to the beginning, right behind the head of the lure, the lead head, and just break it off right there and wrap over the loose end and up just a slight distance. Just put a good 20 or 30 wraps around it, just like that. Then pull just some slack out, lay your fingers on it, and just twist it around and make a half hitch. Pull it right down behind it, good and snug. Make another half hitch, pull it down, good and snug. At that point, just trim off the line, and you have finished a perfectly usable marabou feathered tailed jig. Very simple, nothing to it. Takes about 30 seconds once you get used to it. And you can make all the jigs very inexpensively if you want. You can make them in any color. I like bright colors at times. I like blue at times. I've got a whole drawer full of different colors, materials, and all. But just start out with a few basics. The little fingernail scissors are real handy, and you'll enjoy lots of time catching fish on something you've made yourself. Thank you, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.